Welcome to Prestige Stories. Tonight, we bring you a special report that feels more like a long, in-depth conversation than your usual short news clip. Imagine a day when a normal White House press briefing turned into a dramatic showdown that no one saw coming. What started as a routine session quickly evolved into an unexpected battle of words and ideas that captured the attention of everyone watching. In the heart of the press room, CNN reporter Kaitlan, known for her hard-hitting questions and controlled demeanor, met her match when she challenged a government spokesperson, Karoline Leavitt, on something as simple as the name of a body of water. Now, you might be wondering how something like a name could spark such a big confrontation. It all began when Collins brought up the naming of the water off the coast of Louisiana. She asked if it was really fair for the administration to insist on calling it the Gulf of America when many people, including some media voices, had always referred to it as the Gulf of Mexico. With a tone that was both confident and aggressive, Collins claimed that refusing to use a traditional name was part of a larger plan to control the narrative and even to silence certain voices. The energy in the room changed almost immediately. Reporters, who were usually calm and ready with their notes, started to lean in and pay extra attention. Karoline Leavitt, however, was not ready to back down. Calm and collected, she explained that the water was officially recognized as the Gulf of America by the Secretary of the Interior. She mentioned that big names like Apple and Google, among other authorities, confirmed the name. Leavitt's reply was simple and clear. She wasn't there to play games or to be pushed around. Instead, she made it very clear that when facts are on the table, the truth should not be twisted or disputed. As her words filled the room, it became apparent that this was not a regular press briefing. It was a moment when someone stood up for what they believed to be true and called out an entire system for trying to manipulate facts. Throughout the press room, you could see the change in atmosphere. Reporters who had been casually taking notes now found themselves listening intently. Social media was already abuzz, and live clips of the exchange started to appear online. Every person in the room realized that something big was happening. The confrontation was not just about a name. It was about accountability, truth, and the role of the media in shaping our understanding of events. It wasn't long before viewers at home were reacting in real time. The moment quickly went viral, and people everywhere began to question why the media had such a hard time accepting a simple fact. At this point, let me remind you, like, comment, and subscribe to keep up with more breaking news from Prestige Stories as we bring you the latest updates and analysis on events that matter to you. As the debate intensified, Collins tried to push further. She insisted that if the White House could demand that everyone use a certain name for something as common as a body of water, then it might also control what the media could say. She even went as far as to suggest that the administration might retaliate against journalists who refused to follow their language rules. But Leavitt was ready. With a measured tone, she pointed out that words do matter, and that when the government issues a factual designation, it isn't about silencing anyone. It's about setting the record straight. She then challenged the idea that if you can't accept facts, you must be against the freedom of the press. Her words were simple and direct, leaving no room for doubt. During this heated exchange, the mood in the room shifted even further. Reporters exchanged glances, some scribbling notes rapidly, while others watched in silence. The cameras captured every moment, and soon the entire world was watching as the drama unfolded. The conversation was no longer just about a naming dispute. It had grown into a larger discussion on media bias and the power of narrative. People began to ask, why does a simple matter of fact cause so much controversy? And why does the media seem so eager to twist the truth? The questions were many, and the answers were still coming as the briefing continued. As the minutes ticked by, social media platforms were flooded with clips of the exchange. Conservative voices and commentators praised Leavitt for her strong, factual stance, while others on the left tried to spin the incident in a different light. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, major networks scrambled to control the damage. Their producers rushed to edit and reframe the story, hoping to salvage their carefully built narratives. But once the unedited footage was out there, nothing could hide what had truly happened. It was a moment of raw truth, and people everywhere were quick to share it. Now, remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you're enjoying our deep dive into this unprecedented media moment. The impact of this exchange went far beyond the walls of the White House. It sparked a nationwide conversation about how the media operates and whether traditional methods of reporting still hold up in today's fast-paced world. For years, journalists have controlled the flow of information by choosing which facts to highlight and which details to leave out. But now, as viewers and social media users got a chance to see the whole story in its unedited form, the old ways of controlling the narrative seemed to crumble. Leavitt's performance during the briefing was a turning point. She did not merely answer questions. She took the fight directly to those who tried to manipulate the facts. By sticking to truth and refusing to be sidetracked, she exposed a media system that, at times, seems more interested in pushing an agenda than in reporting the real story. In doing so, she not only defended the administration's position on the naming issue, but she also called into question the credibility of the media outlets that had long dominated the conversation. It was a powerful moment, a moment that made people start to wonder if the press really was as infallible as they had once believed. The ripple effects of the briefing were immediate. Clips of the exchange were shared across Twitter, Facebook, and other social media platforms, and viewers could be heard discussing the event everywhere, from coffee shops to living rooms. Some praised Leavitt for a calm and direct approach, while others criticized Collins for what they saw as a desperate attempt to control the narrative. Regardless of which side people took, one thing was clear. The old rules of media engagement were being rewritten before our very eyes. This wasn't just a clash between a reporter and a government official. It was a wake-up call to everyone about the importance of holding our news sources accountable. In the midst of the chaos, more questions began to arise. Reporters from other networks, including MSNBC and the New York Times, joined the conversation. They tried to bring up other topics, such as press access in recent international events, but Leavitt stayed focused. Every time a new question was thrown into the mix, she brought the discussion back to the central issue, the importance of facts and the responsibility of the media to report them accurately. She argued that if reporters and networks continued to twist simple truths for the sake of a story, they would eventually lose the trust of the public. Her message was clear and resonated with many who had grown tired of what they saw as biased reporting. As the briefing progressed, the tension in the room was palpable. Reporters who had once been confident and assertive now found themselves on the defensive. The narrative was rapidly shifting, and for a brief moment, it felt as if the balance of power had tilted away from the media and towards the truth. The entire exchange became a sort of battle for credibility, with every word and every gesture being analyzed by experts and everyday viewers alike. And with each passing minute, the pressure on the media to justify its methods grew stronger. At one point, in the middle of the briefing, a pause fell over the room, a brief moment when everyone realized that something significant had just happened. It wasn't just a question of a water body's name anymore. It was about whether the media could continue to maintain control over the story in an age when the public had the power to see every unedited detail. This was the moment when the traditional gatekeepers of news found themselves suddenly and starkly outnumbered by a wave of factual clarity and public demand for truth. Now, I want to remind you again, like, comment, and subscribe, if you haven't already. Your support helps us bring more in-depth stories like this one right to you. Even as the press corps continued to murmur among themselves, a fresh wave of questions began to pour in from reporters representing different networks. They asked about press access, about whether the Associated Press had been unfairly treated, and about whether this incident signified a new era of government media relations. Leavitt, however, remained unfazed. She calmly stated that the Associated Press was not banned from a briefing, and that every outlet had the same opportunity to ask questions. In her view, if a news organization deliberately misrepresents the facts, then it loses its privilege to be part of the conversation. Her measured response only deepened the rift between what was said and what many felt was the underlying reality of the media's tactics. Throughout the entire event, viewers at home were treated to a live demonstration of the power of clear, factual communication. Leavitt's performance was a reminder that when you stick to the truth, you can break through even the most complicated narratives. The confrontation quickly became a symbol of resistance against the manipulation of words and a call for greater accountability from those in charge of our news. It was a moment that forced both the public and the media to ask tough questions. What happens when the media can no longer shape reality the way it used to? And who will step up when the truth is on the line? By now, you might have noticed how every element of the story, from the initial challenge to the heated rebuttals, built up to this very question. It's a question that has big implications for our society and for how we view the role of journalism in our daily lives. The old tactics of framing a narrative, of selectively editing clips, and of repeating the same old lines simply didn't work this time. Instead, what we saw was an unvarnished look at a system in trouble, a system that had long relied on its ability to shape what people believed. But once the truth was out in the open, there was no going back. In the following minutes, as the briefing wound down, the aftermath of the showdown became even more evident. The unedited footage was already making rounds online, and headlines were quickly being rewritten. News outlets scrambled to find a way to spin the incident into a narrative that fit their usual style. But no matter how hard they tried, the fact remained that the truth had been spoken plainly in front of millions. And for many viewers, that truth was more powerful than any carefully crafted spin could ever be. As we near the end of this long and detailed look at the event, it's important to understand that what happened in the press room wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a larger pattern, a trend where traditional media is increasingly being challenged by the very people that have long tried to control the conversation. With the rise of social media and the demand for transparency, more and more viewers are looking beyond the sound bites and the edited clips. They want the full story, unfiltered and direct. And that is exactly what we saw here. At this point, we pause to ask you one more time. Like, comment, and subscribe to help us continue bringing these important stories to light. Your engagement is key to making sure that we keep the conversation going and that you receive the information that matters most. In the final stretch of this briefing, the overall mood was one of transformation. For decades, the media had enjoyed the power of deciding what was news and what wasn't. But now, as seen through this dramatic exchange, that power was being challenged. The press had been used to setting the terms of the conversation, but with the rise of a more informed and critical public, even the mightiest media institutions had to reckon with the fact that they were no longer the sole arbiters of truth. Karoline Leavitt's calm, clear, and unwavering stance served as a reminder that when you let facts speak for themselves, you can shift the balance of power. Her performance was not just about defending a naming decision. It was about calling out an entire system for its bias and manipulation. And in doing so, she opened the door for a new kind of accountability, one that requires every organization, whether government or media, to stand by the truth. As the cameras finally began to fade and the press room slowly emptied, the echoes of that moment lingered. People around the world started to see that the traditional media's grip on the narrative was loosening, and a new era of accountability and transparency was dawning. This event, as dramatic as it was, represented a turning point, a moment when the truth could no longer be hidden behind layers of spin and selective editing. In closing, we at Prestige Stories believe that this incident is a lesson for all of us. It shows us that every word matters, and that when people demand the truth, no amount of media manipulation can keep it from shining through. This story isn't just about a press briefing gone awry. It's about a shift in the way we understand power, communication, and the role of the media in our society. It's about taking a stand for honesty and holding everyone accountable, whether they are in the halls of government or the rooms of major news networks. Before we sign off, let me remind you one last time. Like, comment, and subscribe to stay connected with Prestige Stories for more in-depth, honest reporting on the issues that truly affect our lives. We appreciate your support and your commitment to seeking the truth. Thank you for joining us on this detailed journey through one of the most talked about moments in recent media history. As we continue to monitor the fallout and the long-term impact of this event, remember that the power of the truth is stronger than any attempt to hide it. We will be back with more updates, more analysis, and more stories that matter to you. For now, this is Prestige Stories signing off, urging you to keep questioning, keep seeking, and never settle for anything less than the full truth.